It's not like a regular recession where you have sluggish or declining revenues. For many businesses, it literally just overnight went to zero.
Joining me now is the former Lieutenant Governor, Brian Calley, and he's also now the president of the Small Business Association of Michigan. Brian, it's good to see you.
Thanks. It's great to be with you again.
So this weekend, the news is businesses up north are going to be able to open up. What are you hearing in terms of concerns from those business owners about being prepared to be back open?
There are a lot of requirements, a lot of new requirements. And while we've been anticipating that would be the case and trying to anticipate what the rules would be, those businesses that didn't already have a jump on it, a head start on getting ready to reopen, I think are really going to struggle to open straight away on Friday, as the new orders allow for, at least for regions 6 and 8, Traverse City, tip of the mitt, and then the Upper Peninsula. So I think you're going to see a mixed reaction. You'll see some bars and restaurants that are ready to open. You're going to see others that it's going to take a few weeks before they can install all the right equipment that they need, get their workforce back. Even things like ordering food and beverage. A lot of these restaurants don't even have that on site right now, because naturally they didn't know when they'd be able to open up. So it's kind of a soft opening.
What do you think are the biggest challenges? Is it PPE? Is it the distancing factor inside? Or are we really, based on whether you're retail or your restaurant?
There are some types of professions like landscaping or construction, even manufacturing, where you can engineer distancing and PPE into the process a lot easier. But in some types of businesses, especially with small businesses, it's not so easy to do. So that it is highly dependent on the style and the type of business, but all of them are in for an adjustment. And there are a lot of new practices, especially things like health screening. If you weren't in the healthcare business before, then this is something brand new, totally new, that you're going to have to learn how to do. And there's also new training requirements for employees and documentation requirements that didn't have to be done before. So it is not an insignificant task to get ready to open.
So as we watch what may be happening this weekend up north, if you're a business in Southeast Michigan, obviously they're waiting a little while longer. What would you say to those businesses to be doing right now in preparation? And what is your organization kind of giving them the best practices or the guidelines to be able to be ready?
Every business is required to have a COVID-19 preparedness and response plan. And there's a lot to those, and it depends on which industry you're in. But there's an executive order, 2020-91, which lays out a lot of the new requirements and the requirements that were in previous iterations of the executive orders. And what we have done is to translate that into a guide to restarting your business into plain English and in an order that would make sense to business owners, and but then also to incorporate the latest information into a template to be used for that document. Businesses are going to have this response and preparedness plan. They have to have this document. And it's a requirement of all businesses, regardless of type. And so we want to help small businesses that don't have compliance staff and teams of attorneys and things to handle that type of paperwork and compliance work. We want to make it as easy as possible, but understanding that it has to be done right. And so it's a delicate balance to try to simplify, right size for business, but make sure that the job still gets done.
You surveyed your members a couple of weeks ago, and 14% of Michigan small businesses are not confident they'll survive this pandemic. I mean, is that not confident they'll survive the shutdown, or even being able to get these processes in place to reopen if it's just going to be too cumbersome or something that they just can't handle?
Well, it's going to be all of the above. When we asked the businesses about their confidence level, it was in the second half of April. So even that short into the crisis, the confidence level was pretty low. Now, as we know about what the the requirements are going to be. We do plan pretty shortly to get back out there in the field and ask the businesses again, given what we know today, some of the orders that have come out, some of the additional permissions for reopening. Now that you can see what the rules are, how confident are you now that you can survive and see if it goes up or down? I can see two different forces at work here. I know that in certain industries that have been green lighted to go, certain regions, that naturally we'd expect the confidence level to go up some, because now there's at least something that they can control and get out there and operate again. But for those, like if you're a hair salon owner or a fitness facility or a movie theater, there's not really light at the end of your tunnel yet. There's been no indication given on when or how long. Are we talking about 2 weeks or 2 months? And so I think it's those types of businesses are really struggling to both plan for the future and also have confidence that they can make it, because they don't really know how long a ride they're in for.
So when you're on having telephone conversations with people and helping small businesses clarify the rules and the guidelines that they have to follow, is there your biggest concerns about capital, about getting more money for these businesses? What would you say are your top 3 concerns right now that you're dealing with?
Well, certainly cash flow is the number one concern of most businesses, because it's not like a regular recession where you have sluggish or declining revenues. For many businesses, it literally just overnight went to zero. To have absolutely no cash coming in whatsoever is the type of challenge is difficult to prepare for. So that's definitely a main and top concern. The Paycheck Protection Program that Congress passed was a help in that, especially for businesses whose main expense was payroll. But many of those in that first round, they're getting to the end of those resources. And if it's not time for them to open up yet, I'm afraid that that while it helps the employees to have put them back on payroll for that 8 weeks, it won't necessarily help the business survive long term and bring those jobs back in a more permanent way.
I got to ask you about just an overall economic question about the state of Michigan, and you served as lieutenant governor for 8 years. What is your sense about where this places Michigan? Obviously, we're always the first to feel it when the economy tanks down, and sometimes we are the last to recover. We're entering a new phase, and I guess I would just get your 2 cents on where you see the state headed and what you'd like to see happen.
Well, I don't think that future is written yet. But I think it's important how we move forward from here. Everybody knows that you don't flip a light switch and just go back to normal. But I do think that having our state move at a pace that is similar to our neighbors in the Midwest would be pretty important. So as we look to the South, especially Indiana and Ohio, and the type of work that they're doing to safely reopen, it would be my hope that we wouldn't be too far behind them in the way that we operate. Think about automotive supply chains, for example. Once the supply chain goes, then everybody in that supply chain needs to be ready to operate. And so manufacturing is up and running statewide. So I think that we're well positioned in that area. But take, for example, tourism. Well, tourism is not one of those things like manufacturing where the order gets put on hold and you end up doing it later on. When you miss the season, you miss the season. And so having one of our big 3 industries, tourism, miss this really short window when many of them make 80 or 90% of their revenue or income for the entire year, that's the sort of thing that most businesses really wouldn't be able to recover from.
Yeah. All right. Brian Calley, we're going to continue to check in with you as this continues to move forward and we see more business open up, or perhaps not. It'll be good to check in with you. Brian Calley, president of the Small Business Association of Michigan. It's good to see you. Thanks.
Likewise. Great to see you too.
Okay. Be well.
All right. You too.
You can find more at onedetroitpbs.org or subscribe to our social media channels and sign up for our One Detroit newsletter.